Heaven establishes kings not on behalf of the rulers, but on behalf of the people. Therefore, if his virtue is sufficient to bring security and happiness to the people, heaven bestows a mandate on him. If his evil is sufficient to injure and harm the people, heaven withdraws the mandate from him. This is a quote from Zhangshu Dong in his book The Luxuriant Gems of the Spring and Autumn. Here he talks about how the mandate is clearly not permanent, that it is up to the people in the end if the current rulers can stay in power. If the people can overthrow the current government, then it is seen as them losing the will of the heavens. This can be seen when the Qin dynasty uses the mandate of heaven to remove the Zhao dynasty from power and to establish their foothold over the people, because they once were the people of China. China has a complicated history of dynasties falling and then a new one rising to take its place, and for the most part for each dynasty follows the same steps. So we can cleanly break the Qin dynasty of ancient China into their rise, their unification of China, and their inevitable fall. The Zhao had ruled China for some time due to the mandate of heaven, but eventually the city-states continued to gain power and the region destabilized. In 403 BCE, civil war broke out and the period of warring states began. This period allowed for the state of the Qin to flourish and grow in power, tremendously eclipsing the surrounding states. Although the Zhao had a strong hold of China for a short time, the constant attacks from surrounding enemies eventually pushed them to the east, leaving several states between them and their enemies. This is where the Qin would find their fighting spirit and continue to grow into a warrior state bathed in blood that was able to be forged into a powerhouse. Their hard work and ability to hold their own showed the Zhao how important the Qin could be to them, so the Zhao bestowed upon the Qin titles of nobility and high-ranking positions in the government. This allowed the Qin to firmly cement their power and influence among the other states. This power increase led to the Qin having no fear, and they began to increase their borders further and further. Coming to the end of the warring states, the Qin would have the king of the Qin, Yingxin, the future first emperor, Qin Shi Huangdai. The Zhao would lose the will of heaven, and the Qin would quickly grasp and assume their mantle over China. By the time that the Qin had conquered, the Zhao had control over 1/3 of the land and the people of China. This began the unification of China by spreading their influence and proving that they had the mandate of heaven, and it was then their right under the power of heaven to rule China. The Qin would use their battle and hardened tactics they had learned over the years of fighting to continue to defeat several other states, leading to the emergence of the Emperor Qin Shi Huangdai, meaning the first emperor, where he was also referred to as Qin, which is thought to be where China got its name. The Qin had a centralized set of power that focused on the monarch's interests above all else, which gave birth to corruption and foreshadowing events to come. The Qin had great ambitions and wished to protect their territory. This led to them unifying walls that were built in the past to protect against invasions. This barrier was consolidated over the years, resulting in a great loss of life, but the emergence of a wonder of the world, the Great Wall of China, that would further consolidate the Qin's power for years to come. From the accomplishments I've listed, you might think that the Qin had a large and prosperous dynasty that spread on for generations, but the truth of the matter is the Qin only ruled for a short 15 years. The empire started to fall apart come to the time that their first emperor died. Since the whole of China was centered around the monarchy, when he died, those closest to him attempted to cover up the fact that he was gone. This was due to his immense obsession with becoming immortal. He had spent vast amounts of wealth in his pursuit of the eternal, and this event would lead to the fracturing of states and a puppet emperor being put up in the place that was the middle son of the deceased emperor. He was only put into power because of his weak leadership skills and the government wanting to rule in the shadows. This only made the instability of the Qin to grow and finally collapse, with the revolting of the people and the establishment of the Han Dynasty. The Qin followed the path of many societies before them, having a great rise to power, unifying and establishing their dominance, and finally falling due to their own pitfalls. It is repeated throughout history, and the Qin dynasty was no different. They established a centralized government that essentially ignored their people while trying to benefit those in power. This created unbalance and a rift between the people and the government, where the people were already on their own and only suffering due to the leadership received. An ancient Chinese proverb says, "A man's greed is like a snake that wants to swallow an elephant." And comparing that to the Qin is like the government being consumed by greed. They lose what is right for their people and only find what is beneficial for themselves. In the end, those that follow this philosophy will only find that they have taken a bite too big and no one willing to save them from choking.